A key piece of evidence has been tossed out in the rape case involving a former Brighton High and USC football player. Now today, all the schools opened up, and then slowly 7, then 9, and eventually 28 schools closed in Davis County for various issues, mostly because they didn't have power. There was a time in his life that he says he could have easily ended up in jail. But because of guidance and support, he ended up working at the jail instead. So the car goes airborne, and stay with me. The car is still in the air as far as I'm walking, 45 feet, then comes over here, lands on a car in a carport, and bounces and goes inside of that house. You know, close to 20% of veterans who served in Iraq and Afghanistan now suffer from PTSD. And a business in St. George is hoping to help them with a unique treatment. From dressing like a princess, we're no longer talking about Jim, by the way, to driving way, way too fast. These are the stories that have people talking.
Good morning, Utah anchor Dan Plant has what's trending today.
Do you tent your turkeys?
I don't cook too many turkeys.
Okay.
I cut them when they're done, but someone else in my house is in charge of cooking.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Believe me, it's better for everyone that way. 8 young women sleeping in their college home wake up when a convicted rapist breaks in and holds them at knife point. This is visual evidence of the fierce gun battle that happened right here. And these charging documents and affidavits kind of fill in the gaps. Good evening. Emily has the night off. I'm Don Hudson. Thank you very much for choosing ABC4 News tonight. You know, big lightning storm on Sunday ignited more than 30 wildfires in Box Elder County. While firefighters have most of those under control, they're worried about a repeat of another storm heading our way. ABC4's Rosie Nguyen explains what they're doing to mitigate the damage. You know, firefighters say they were able to keep costs low for these fires in Box Elder County because no aerial resources actually had to be used. Right now to a health alert with temperatures soaring near records today. In fact, we actually hit a record, I believe. It's important to remind everyone to drink a lot of water, especially our student athletes who are already out there practicing. Athletic trainers from Intermountain Healthcare say hydration is extremely important to prevent heat illnesses. Health officials say if an athlete stops sweating, that is a sign of heat stroke, and emergency steps need to be taken immediately. Some early signs can include things like dizziness, vomiting, pale skin, and having cold sweats. Meteorologist Dan Pope joined us now for a first look at the forecast. And Dan, I said we were either at a record or maybe we hit a record. You can officially let us know here.
We set a new record high today.
Okay. Salt Lake City police say that a man shot and killed by officers yesterday had a gun on him, and he actually used it against officers. They say 29-year-old Richie Antonio Santiago fired on 2 officers who then shot back, killing him. West Valley City Police Department is going to be investigating this officer-involved critical incident, and the officers who were involved are now on administrative duties. This all happened outside of the Park Place at City Center Apartments. Police say both officers' body cameras were on and both captured the entire event. Salt Lake City Police will release that video within 10 days. A court records show earlier this year that Santiago had failed to stop for police in Ogden and Salt Lake City, and the courts issued warrants for his arrest in both cases. He was also charged in Cottonwood Heights for not having a license. We also had a deadly weekend out on Utah roads. Friday through Sunday, just that time period, the Utah Highway Patrol investigated 7 deadly crashes. State troopers say one common factor in all these crashes, drivers not paying attention. Troopers are also reminding people to buckle up. They say at least 2 of these deaths happened because people were not wearing seatbelts. You know, close to 20% of veterans who served in Iraq and Afghanistan now suffer from PTSD. And a business in St. George is hoping to help them with a unique treatment. A wellness center called Inside Out uses hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Patients step into this pressurized chamber that brings 600 times more oxygen to the brain than normal. U.S. Army veteran Josh Rock says the treatment has actually helped him reach a special milestone. And with staff now launching a veteran sponsorship program. This is great here. They're offering free therapy sessions for vets suffering from PTSD.
Monday and Monday.
Upper 80s. Well, we'll take upper 80s any day.
Yes.
Over 100.
Absolutely.
It's just brutal out there.
Yeah.
All right. Dana joins us now with a bucket full of sports.
We do, yes. They got to take home the ABC4 trophy from our own Wesley Ruff there. Probably the closest Wesley's going to get to holding a golf trophy. Much closer than me. Much closer than me.
Isn't here to
He's not
defend
here to
himself, so
defend
you're
himself.
taking shots at him.
Exactly. That's how we roll.
West at a golf course, so shocking.
Yeah, right. But congrats to Annika.
Yeah.
68 and 67, not bad.
I thought he had a 1 handicap or something like that.
That's probably what he told you.
It's 101 out there right now.
He's a golfer, so he's telling you stories.
Yeah.
That's what
All
he's
right,
doing.
yeah, it's like a fish story, isn't it? 96 tomorrow. The storms come in on Thursday, though.
The greatest shot of my life. The greatest shot, I tell you. Hey, see you back here with much more at 10.
When he admitted that he killed her, you know, goosebumps ran up and down me, and I had to control myself because, you know, my first instinct is to get him up and handcuff him and drive him back to Utah.
That is how the 46-year-old murder case against Thomas Edward Egley would finally be solved. But to understand why Detective David Brewer took on the Loretta Jones case and worked on it for 7 years, we need to back up to 2002.
I was 38 when I went to the academy, and I figured it's probably best if I start now before I can't run.
Detective Brewer certainly got a late start in law enforcement. For years, he was a Subway franchise owner, but he wanted to serve and protect, so he sold his stores and became a cop.
It may sound corny, but when I owned Subway and stuff, one of my favorite shows was Cops. And I would get furious watching some of these things. You know, you just wanted to go chase them yourself. Copy, thank you.
A few years into the job, he would get involved in one of the longest chases in Utah law enforcement history.
I walked up to him at the Helper Arts Festival, and I told him that I had something I needed to talk to him about.
Heidi Jones told him about her mother's rape and brutal murder in 1970, how she found her mom stabbed to death when she was just 4 years old, and how the Price, Utah case had never been solved.
It kind of excited me, the whole thought of a cold case. This was my first one as being a detective. I never had a cold case before, and there was a lot of old wives' tales, you know, a lot of urban legends about this case, most of which were exaggerated over the years, but it was enough just to keep you, you know, excited about it.
Still, there were times it appeared the case had hit dead ends.
I remember just crying, and, you know, he's like, "It's okay, Heidi, it's okay. You know, you need to cry."
Heidi says, despite setbacks, Detective Brewer would not give up building a case against her mother's killer.
To have somebody actually excited about it, and somebody that was working it and asking questions and wanted to know more about it, it was a dream come true for me.
Detective Brewer says the case really started to move forward when they found Egley's former girlfriend.
She told stories about, you know, his late arrival at about 3 a.m. that morning, some of his actions and taking clothes out and not returning his clothes that he had on that night.
He eventually interviewed Egley at his home in Colorado.
We prepared the questions carefully and talked to him, and stuff that he would have only known as the murderer in this case, he knew. And so that really kept it going.
Then Detective Brewer made sure that when they exhumed Loretta's body, Egley heard about it and was made aware they were getting DNA samples. He says after that, it appeared Egley knew his 46-year-old secret was out, and he simply confessed.
Then he just started talking and said that he killed Loretta Jones.
But because that happened in Colorado, where Detective Brewer had no arresting powers, he had to leave Egley's house empty-handed.
We knew he had to walk out of that house after 7 years of investigating without the man who just admitted to doing this crime. So it was a tough deal to do. It was hard to control myself, but kind of had to maintain a good poker face and walk out of there, and told him we'd be back in touch.
From a police standpoint, Brewer says the rest was easy.
After that, we came home, got all the attorney stuff put together, and got the U.S. Marshals to go out there and arrest him for us.
Egley waived his preliminary hearings, confessed to the murder of Loretta Jones, and was sentenced. After 46 years, the case was finally closed. And because of Detective Brewer's work, Heidi says she finally had a portion of peace.
And to be able to have a detective come in and do what he's done is just phenomenal. I can't give him enough praise. I really can't. And I know, you know, he'll try to say he's just doing his job, but no, he changed my life. He really changed my life. You know, the little 4-year-old Heidi, you know, she's not so sad anymore.
You know, Loretta and her sisters used to wear a charm. Heidi gave that charm to Detective Brewer when he started investigating, hung it on his police car, still has it there today. Now, if you want to know more about this story, I'm going to have a Facebook Live conversation at the end of the newscast for any questions. There's also more information online with this story. To check it out and nominate an officer for a future story, go to goodforutah.com/badge.